Hello again, this is Will Luden, your host at Revolution 2.0, a revolution of the heart, bringing you episode 379, Rittenhouse innocent, politicians and pundits guilty. I've been wanting to bring you this episode since last week, but I've been under the weather. Heavy cold, not the Rona, just a really heavy cold. You may hear me coughing, and this is my video assistant, Max, 15-month-old standard poodle. He's kind of on the scene today, and you may have heard him voice his thoughts every once in a while on podcasts. I've got over 300 and counting, 370 and counting podcasts, and every once in a while, Max will insert his voice. And here we go into today's episode, and please do subscribe and encourage others to subscribe with you. And on the YouTube channel, ring that bell so you'll be notified every time Max and I come up with a new episode. Again, this is Rittenhouse innocent, politicians and pundits guilty. Our nation of laws, created in 1776 and refined over time, won and kept at a terrible cost in blood and treasure, is in danger of devolving into a nation of warring cliches and uninformed biases. What began with a triumphant bang might well end with a selfish whimper. Stay with me, and I will go over the why and the how of this. America was once arbitrarily ruled by King George, backed by his military, later arbitrarily ruled in the Wild West, backed by violence, and again by robber barons in the late 19th century, backed by massive wealth and their willingness to use it selfishly. America, that's us, is now in danger of being ruled arbitrarily by cliche-based biases, agendas, and lies wielded by politicians, media, pundits, and power brokers. Whatever it takes is their motto. The end justifies the means, or so they say. America grew and developed, ruled by power and influence. As America grew and developed, rule by power and influence was replaced by the rule of law. Rule by King George gave way to the Constitution. Rule by gunfire in the Wild West was replaced by courts and juries. Today, the direction is reversing. Rule by law is being replaced by biases and agendas enforced with their whatever-it-takes approach. Both the Kyle Rittenhouse, we're getting into the evidence now, both the Kyle Rittenhouse and Ahmaud Arbery trials, both featuring self-defense, delivered the correct findings. Rittenhouse was innocent, the three accused and Arbery guilty. Both Rittenhouse and Arbery made major mistakes. Rittenhouse at the time was 17, young, stupid, and naive. He followed false patriots by showing up armed in Kenosha during the Jacob Blake protest and riots. Governor Evans should have exerted far more control over the looting and burning, and the teenager should have stayed home. The 25-year-old Aubrey was seen on security video trespassing in the home of the defendant's neighborhood that was under construction, and unoccupied. The owner reported items stolen from his boat that was on the property, but there was no evidence that Aubrey was the thief. On the day of the murder, Aubrey had entered the home again. The three murderers chased Aubrey because he was trespassing. When Aubrey turned to confront the one with the shotgun, he was fatally shot. Aubrey should never have trespassed. The men should never have followed him. What did not happen? We talked about a summary of what happened in the cases. Here's some things that did not happen. Rittenhouse did not cross state lines with a firearm. I'm going to say that again for the people who have heard the opposite many times. Rittenhouse did not cross state lines with a firearm. He did not go to Kenosha with the intent of gunning down innocent protesters. Arbery did nothing to deserve being followed and confronted by three armed men. It's disingenuous to laud one outcome and decry the other, praise one and criticize the other. It takes a lot of lies and a lot of misinformation to make the case that one verdict is correct and the other one was not. Let's hear some of those lies and focused misinformation. President Joe Biden, then a presidential candidate, instantly branded Rittenhouse a white supremacist, that's in quotes, a white supremacist, in the aftermath of the August 2020 shootings. and even used his photo, Rittenhouse's photo, in a tweet to do so. He also demanded to know why then President Trump did not, quote unquote, disavow white supremacists like Rittenhouse. I'm sorry. Maybe we can edit that one out. I'm not sure. But I apologize. And we're back at it. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, Democrat, Massachusetts, tweeted, a 17-year-old white supremacist domestic terrorist, she adds to it, white supremacist domestic terrorist, drove across state lines armed with an AR-15. He shot and killed 2 people who had assembled to affirm the value, dignity, and worth of black lives. Fix your damn headlines, end quote. Presley's colleague, Congresswoman Cori Bush, Democrat of Missouri, tweeted, when we marched in Ferguson, white supremacists would hide behind a hill. It would hide behind a hill where Michael Brown Jr. was murdered and shoot at us. They never face consequences. If Kyle Rittenhouse gets acquitted, it tells them that even 7 years later, they can still get away with it. Nobody hid behind a hill and shot at anybody, much less in Ferguson, much less white supremacists shooting at blacks. And that lie had to be added to the enduring hands up, don't shoot lie in order to make cases that should never be made. It takes lies and misinformation to make and to forward certain agendas. After the verdict, Bush tweeted, the judge, the jury, the defendant, it's white supremacy in action. The system isn't built to be held accountable. It's why black and brown folks are brutalized, put in cages, while white supremacist murderers walk away free. I'm hurt. I'm angry. I'm heartbroken. End quote. She's also lying. Let me translate for you. This is what these 2 Congress people are really saying. I don't like this verdict, so I will lie and cast aspersions with the belief that my lies will be believed. After all, the ends justify the means, right? Right? The evidence is clear. Kyle Rittenhouse is innocent of the crimes charged. The evidence continues to mount that the media and other politicians, including leading Democrat figures, are convicting both Rittenhouse and the jury. The same voices are lauding the conviction of the 3 men who murdered Ahmaud Arbery. Let's hear from a supporter of the jury system, at least in select cases. A jury believed the evidence of their eyes and saw the meanness in the killer's hearts. May this verdict bring a small measure of peace to Ahmaud Arbery's family and loved ones. That's Stacey Abrams, former and once again Georgia gubernatorial candidate who is yet to concede from her first election, and she posted that on Twitter. Now let's hear from some on the other side of the aisle who also do not get it. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican of Georgia, wants to award Rittenhouse the Congressional Medal. That's just absurd. She wants to give the young, scared, naive man who should never have been there the Congressional Medal. Representatives Matt Gaetz, Republican of Florida, and Madison Cawthorn, Republican of North Carolina, both offered the youngster internships in their offices. Rittenhouse is neither a hero nor a villain. It's false and dangerous to portray him as either. The jury system, part of our nation of laws, worked in both cases. America, a nation of laws, part of our bedrock foundation. Bedrock foundation. Not arbitrary rule with King George, not arbitrary rule like in the Wild West with violence, and please, not arbitrary rule now with the power of lies from politicians, pundits, and the press. Now, be patient with me while I jump forward a little bit in my notes. I prepare these notes very carefully and try to deliver them in the most heartfelt way that I can, because we're on a mission together. We all have the personal responsibility to protect and preserve America as a nation of laws. Speaking of personal responsibility, this principle does not stand alone. The 2 main principles, 2 main tenets at Revolution 2.0 are 1, personal responsibility. Take it, teach it. And 2, be your brother's keeper. The answer to the age-old question, am I my brother's keeper, is a positive, ringing yes. There can be no other answer. Where do you stand? What are you going to do? Where do you stand? What are you going to do? Remember, it doesn't matter where you stand if you don't do anything. And you can start doing something today by subscribing, encouraging others to subscribe, and ringing that bell in the YouTube videos. As always, whatever you do, do it in love. Without love, anything we do is empty. This is Will Luden. We'll talk the next time.
You've been listening to Revolution 2.0. If you've enjoyed this stimulating, passionate, and relentless reasoning, we encourage you to get out there and do something. You can follow Will Luden and subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcasting platforms and on YouTube at revolution2-0.org.